Nope.
Nice.
Oh, baby, a triple! Oh, yeah!
Howdy, howdy! It's me, that broken brain Gates. And welcome to episode 7 of my starter deck upgrade series. Get ready for some trickster shenanigans, because we're on that Faerie pranks grind. Let's dive right in. Alrighty, so we got some Demir action today. Fairies, to be specific. I've never been much of a fairies kind of guy, but I'm open to trying new things, finding new perspectives and all. So, let's see how this baby performs. Alright, Dark Lotus Ninja, here we go. Let's see what we got here. Alright, Talion's Messenger, fantastic card draw plus board presence engine. And with the Roaming Throne, potentially drawing 2 cards and giving +2/+2 distributed as we please. That's nice. We just gotta make it there. Which shouldn't be a problem with this deck. It's a very low curve deck. The highest cost card in the whole deck is in our hands right now. The 4-cost Roaming Throne. It's fairly consistent, you know? Like, having such a low curve means you only need 4, maybe even 5 mana max in order to do anything and everything you want to do in the deck. Which is super nice for a beginner's deck. Because you don't, like, there's just so much, like, with certain decks especially, there's the ever-present threat of not getting the right mana or getting enough mana. And with this deck, that I never had any problems with that, with this deck. And so that's really nice. Starting off with the our first play on the board is Talion's Messenger. And we just hoping that opponent doesn't have an answer for it. They play a Desecration Demon in response, which is a very powerful card. It comes with the caveat, it's a 4-mana 6/6 with flying. But at the beginning of each combat, if I choose to sacrifice one of my creatures, I can put a stun counter on it and tap it. Which is, like, fair enough. I'll just freeze it in place. You know, like, I'll stun it for 3 turns. And, you know, like, by the time it comes out of the stun, the game might be over. That's the goal, at least. That's what we're trying to achieve. So, play the Picklock Prankster, and I was mistaken. I was thinking that it milled 4, and then you could choose any card from your entire graveyard and put that into your hand. But that is not how the card works. You mill 4, and then you put one of the cards from the 4 cards milled into your hand. Still a pretty good card. And the 1/3 with Vigilance is pretty weak. It's tacked on there, like it's Faerie synergy. It's a decent enough card. It's really good with Talion's Messenger buffs on it. Like, as far as, like, a body to buff, a 1/3 is an excellent body to buff. Because it has 3 health, any additional power that it gains, like, putting a 1/1 counter on a 1/3 as opposed to a 3/1, for example, like, you're not going to survive much more with a 2 health as opposed to a 1 health creature. And you're not going to be killing much more with a 4 power creature than a 3 power creature. But if you flip it and you're making a 3-1, or sorry, a 1-3 into a 2-4, you're doubling the attack power, but you're still not going to be able to kill much between going from 1 power to 2 power. But going from 3 toughness to 4 toughness, that's a big deal. And it's just one of the ways that having more health than power is, generally speaking, a good thing. You want your units to be able to survive. Because there's kind of like, there's like a breaking point where it's like you have a 5-5 on the board up until the point where the opponent plays a 6-6. You have full control of the board all the way up until the point where they play a 6-6, and then they have control of the board. And it's kind of, it's just like a balancing act, you know? But, back to the game. They've been playing big demons, and I've been stunning them. That's pretty much it. I'm beating them down with Italian's Messenger. They ain't taking it no more. GG. Wow. Okay, so that was incredible. I went 3-2. A winning record indeed. I'm thoroughly impressed. Playing was highly satisfying, as piloting it felt more complex than previous decks. I'm not sure how to describe it, but the deck's playstyle is unique, and I dig it. And looking at the list here, I don't see any real stinkers that stick out to me. The deck is solid, but even a deck as good as this one has room for improvement. Let's get rocking and rolling. Starting from the top, let's cut Sleep Cursed Faerie. The payoff just isn't worth the cost. One more sleight of hand fills the empty slot. And next on the chopping block is Snare Master Sprite. 3 mana for a 1-turn stun is overcosted. I'm putting in 2 more 3 steps ahead to fill the slot. The next cut is Faerie Dream Thief. It's only a 1-of, but it helps make room for a complete set of Faerie Fencing, one of the strongest cards in the deck. It overperformed, in my opinion, in every game that I had the honor of drawing it. Now, on making some 4-ofs. +2 of Deduce, Freeze in Place, and Spell Stutter, in addition to +1 of Picklock Prankster, Mocking Sprite, and Quick Study. This leaves us with way too many cards, so some final cuts are in order. I'm sad to see them go, but Baronati, Drag the Canal, Spell Scorn Cavern, and Faerie Slumber Party all get the axe.
Boy.
Oh, and 1 island as well, leaving us with 24 lands and a grand total of 63 cards. I would love to add a full set of Wandering Thrones, but I only have 1 rare wild card, and I'm saving that for another deck. Not too shabby though, if I do say so myself. Now, let's put this bad boy to the test. Alrighty, Abunis, let's see what you fucking got. Pretty decent opening hand. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. Let's see what kind of shenanigans we're going to get ourselves into. Case of the Uneven Feast. Okay, so it's a life gain kind of deck. I can work with that. That's actually kind of a problem. Because the way this deck operates is it's kind of like a chip here, chip there kind of deck. Like, you're not overwhelming your opponent with massive 10-10s in the late game, you know? Like, you're chipping away at them with vigilant 1-3s, you know? Like, little flyers throughout the game. So, a deck that has healing usually takes the form of 1 or 2 healing every turn, kind of throughout the game. That kind of completely negates our pressure. So we've got an uphill climb if we want to win this game. And that's a new card to me. I spent a good minute there just reading that card. I cut that all out though. So don't worry. I'm not going to make you sit there and wait while I read a new card. And I played the Picklock Prankster. Technically I played Free the Fae. And I like drawing cards, so I played Quick Study. I already had a Mocking Sprite in hand as well, so didn't need another one. Did not need 2. Opponent is playing white-green, so there's not too much removal. Excuse me. This Myth's Breath Elder combo is pretty stellar, though. Like, at first I was like, oh yeah, that's fine, they can get a card. Like, I don't care about, like, I looked through the list of possible cards to acquire, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's, like, I don't really care that much. But the second time with the Amara, I was like, no, I can't let this go. I have to stop this value engine from churning, you know? Like, if I let it keep going, it's gonna be the end of me, you know? Like, I have to stop it now. So I stop it. And that's one of the best parts of this deck is the counter spells. I'm a bit of a white-blue counterspell stacks kind of player. I find it highly enjoyable to counter everybody all the time. Oh man. So I developed the Roaming Throne last turn. I get the Mocking Sprite out this turn. Sleight of Hand is a really fun card to play. I was surprised by how consistently strong Sleight of Hand was. It's basically 1 mana draw a card, which is like, it's almost like, why do you even have that in your deck? But the fact that it lets you look at 2 cards is phenomenal, and my opponent played a huge card. And I think they made a colossal blunder here. They trade away their value engine for my 4/4. Now, the 4/4 is a value engine for us as well, so we're trading value engines. But they don't know that we don't really have any value to gain from that 4/4, from the throne. So, it's possible that they also had no more value to get from their value engine card. So it could have been a fair 4/4 trade for 4/4. but I feel like it was a mistake for my opponent to trade their 4/4 in there. And Freeze in Place, what a wonderful card. And it fits perfectly in with this deck's playstyle, where you're like you're not necessarily killing every threat. You're dipping and diving and kind of finagling your way into situations where you're gonna poke at your opponent. Like, I just got in there for 2 damage. And here comes a big threat. And this is something that I was thinking about in the moment. Was like an 8/8, a vanilla 8/8, I can just freeze that. I can stun it, and it's essentially gone. But that Railway Brawler, even if I stun it, it still has an effect. So saving the Faerie fencing for threats that are persistent like that, they have ongoing effects. They basically, it's important to know what kind of removal is best used for what different situations. And once again, another 4/4 with a pretty stellar effect. I can't remember if I freeze it or if I fencing it. I'm pretty sure I'm fencing it. But I have to wait until next turn to do it anyways, so. I'm pretty sure I'm fencing it and quick study. Have to spend a lot of mana. That's not too shabby. No, 2 mana. Not a lot of mana. Develop the 2/1. And we're in a pretty good situation. And I get to cast 1 mana, draw 2. That's frickin' dope. And now we have a sizable board. That's 2, 4, 5 damage coming at them in the air. By themselves, the fairies are no problem. But once you get a few of them on the board, together, they are strong. Unfortunately, they have another Railway Brawler, and I did not save up enough mana. I got a little bit overzealous, and I did not save enough mana for counterspells. So, it resolves, and that could be the end of us. Because most creatures are bigger than our fairies to begin with, but let's say they summon a 5/5 next turn. That's average stats. Suddenly it's a 10/10. If it has trample, we're screwed. Like, if they have 2 5/5s, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 mana. It's entirely possible for them to summon 2 5/5s. I go ahead and freeze it because it has reach. And I see that my opponent is at 13 health. So, I have 2, 4, 6, 7 damage on the board. And I just dealt 7 damage to them. So, as you can see now, they're at 6 health. I had 2 turn lethal on the board. As long as they don't heal out of range or play another creature with reach, I have lethal on the board next turn. And that I'm playing to that out. And I have 2 counter spells in hand. And I make sure to not... Oh, I don't have enough blue mana anyways, so it didn't even matter. Oh well. But I'm running into a... I've run into a conundrum here. I didn't have enough blue mana. I forgot. I have to block the 11/11. I mean, I might as well block the 11/11 because I have to block one of them. There's the blue mana that would have been nice to have. Oh, but look at that! The game loves me. All I needed was 1 damage. And my deck provided it. Oh, baby. Hit him with that good game. Deuces. Well, I guess this makes sense. Few changes were made, and that is reflected in the stats. 3 and 2 again. The deck has such an odd play style. The most potent creature in the deck is a mere 4/4, and he's only a 1-of. So you can't rely on overwhelming your opponent with sheer strength. No, this deck requires more patience. It's a very reactive deck, especially when it comes to utilizing your counterspells. You have to hold up enough mana to counter your opponent's next big bad, which means you often have to skip out on developing the board. It's pretty refreshing, honestly. It's undoubtedly the most difficult starter deck to pilot thus far. I'm not entirely sold on it, despite its winning record. I'm placing it in the middle of B tier. And there you have it. If you made it this far, you're a fucking legend, and I hope that your coffee is always the right temperature. Good luck and have fun out there, y'all, and I'll see you in the next vid.